The first time I smoked crack, it was out of a water bottle. You know, the pipe, and you put water in.
Yeah.
She talked about how she would intentionally avoid doing drugs during her career because her dad had a really bad addiction to weed, crack, and alcohol.
Nicki spent her whole career watching what her father's addiction destroyed, and then it happened to her too. Sparky D missed her mother's last moment alive after getting high on crack. And these rappers are not the only ones on this list with a terrible drug addiction problem. Most of them you have probably never heard about until right now. Nicki Minaj. If there was ever a woman in this game who had every reason to stay far away from drugs, it was Nicki Minaj. She did not just read about what addiction could do to a family, she lived inside of it. Her father, Robert Mirage, spent years battling crack cocaine, and Nicki watched that up close as a little girl in Queens. So from the jump, she made a decision that this was not going to be her life. She drew a hard line and she kept it. For a long time, that line held. Nicki was moving fast in her career, becoming the first female rapper to have 7 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time, stacking platinum records and selling out shows all over the world. There was no space in that kind of life for the things she had watched destroy her father. But then, she started getting bad period pain, the kind that would stop you in your tracks, and a doctor gave her a prescription for Percocet to help with it. She was living in Atlanta at the time, early in her career, and the pills worked, so she kept taking them. Nobody in that room warned her about what Percocet actually was, or what it could do to a person who kept reaching for it after the pain was already gone.
She said she was taking them for the pain in the beginning and then eventually found herself taking them when she didn't need to. And no one told her that this was a narcotic that was this addictive. But luckily she was able to ground herself. But once she did, she says, once an addict, always an addict.
In her 2023 Vogue cover story, she said it plain. No one told me that this was a narcotic and this was addictive. Luckily, I was able to ground myself, but once an addict, always an addict. She got herself out without a rehab program and without any outside help, just pure discipline. But she has never pretended like the want for it fully went away. She says to this day, she still has to think twice before making certain choices, and sometimes 3 times. The woman who built her whole career trying not to become her father ended up fighting the same fight he did, just in a different way. Chinna Rogers. Chinna Rogers moved fast from the very beginning. She was born in Philadelphia in 1994, and by the time she was 14 years old, she was already modeling for big brands like DKNY, catching the train to New York on weekends while still in school. That world is not easy on young people, but she kept moving through it and eventually found her way into music through ASAP Mob, where ASAP Yams took her under his wing and became her mentor. He was the one who believed in her music before most people even knew her name. He was also the one she watched die from a drug overdose in 2015. That loss hit her hard and stayed with her. By early 2016, her opioid addiction had already taken a real hold on her life, fed by years of keeping her feelings bottled up and pushing through pain, because that is what you do when you come from where she came from. In a 2018 Pitchfork interview, she talked about the thinking that kept her stuck inside of it. I hadn't gone through enough terrible stuff to deserve to have this as a career. I just couldn't relate to enough people. She had convinced herself somewhere deep down that real pain was the price you had to pay to be a real artist. She went to rehab, earned 90 days sober, and named a whole mixtape after those 90 days to celebrate it. She came back stronger. Then, in 2017, her mother passed away, and it happened exactly 365 days after she finished rehab, like the universe was testing her in the cruelest way possible. On April 8, 2020, Chinna Rogers was found not responding inside her home in Philadelphia. She was 25 years old. The Philadelphia Department of Health said it was an accidental drug overdose. Katie Got Bandz. Katie Got Bandz came up in the Ida B. Wells projects on 39th Street on the south side of Chicago, the kind of neighborhood that does not let you be soft. It builds you tough, or it breaks you, and Katie came out tough when she burst into Chicago's drill scene in 2012 with I Need a Hitter at just 18 years old while still working a fast food job. She was bringing all of that project energy straight into her music, and people felt it immediately. But being tough on the outside does not always protect you from the war going on inside you. Katie started taking Percocet to deal with anxiety and grief after she lost her grandmother and her aunt around the same time. The pills made the pain go quiet for a while, and that quiet felt so good that she kept going back to it.
Nobody knew I was off nothing unless I told them, like, I ain't out here high, eyes twitching, mouth twitching, none of that. Yeah. I really did it, and it was for a cry out for help as well, you know? And one day I started losing people to fentanyl, to and it scared me.
She kept it so hidden that nobody around her could even tell she was using. No shaking, no obvious signs, nothing. She said it out loud herself, that the whole thing was a cry for help that nobody answered. When she finally opened up to people around her, they pulled back instead of showing up for her. Then, around 2017, fentanyl started killing people she actually knew, people she had been in the same rooms with, and something clicked. That could have been her name. People were crying over. She stopped cold turkey with no rehab and no program behind her, just sat through the withdrawals by herself, the sweating and itching and not being able to sleep, and came out clean on the other side. She says quitting gave her back the focus she had lost in her music while she was deep in it. Sparky D. Most people getting into hip-hop today have never heard the name Sparky D, and that right there is the real tragedy of her story. Born Doreen Broadnax in Brownsville, Brooklyn in 1965, she was one of the very first women to step into battle rap, going bar for bar with Roxanne Shante in the Roxanne Wars when she was still a teenager in the mid-80s. These two young girls from Brooklyn were selling out arenas before they were old enough to vote, and before most people could even imagine a woman holding her own in that space. Then crack came into her life, and everything stopped.
The first time I smoked crack, it was out of a water bottle. The pipe, and you put water in it.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 19 years old. But Spider D was my significant other. And across the street was a club called the Encore in Queens. And I came home just to rush home for something, I don't know what it was. It was a big rap party at the Encore. And I said to Spider D, what are you doing? He said, oh, you gotta try this, this is crack. It is good. I said, okay, let me just see. And that was the worst thing I could have ever done, was hit that crack cocaine.
She was 19 years old the first time she hit it, and that same night she was supposed to take $1,000 to her mother so she could go on vacation. She never made it to Brooklyn. The next day, her mother died. Sparky has said that the guilt from missing that trip, from not getting to give her mother that money, is what kept her on crack cocaine for the next 17 years. 17 years. While Queen Latifah and Eve were rising and taking hip-hop to new places, one of the women who helped build the foundation of this whole culture was in crack houses in Virginia, waking her own daughter up at 3 in the morning to take her lunch money so she could go get high. Roxanne Shante herself had to walk into a crack house and take Sparky's children out of there to keep them safe for a week because Sparky could not bring herself to leave. She finally got clean in 2004 after breaking down on a street corner with her baby girl strapped to her back, begging strangers for quarters. That was the turning point. She rebuilt from there, slowly, and today she moves through the world as an apostle and a speaker, proof that even 17 years deep in addiction is not the end of the story. Eve looked like she had everything figured out. Born in Philadelphia in 1978, a Rough Rider, Grammy winner, her own TV show, real crossover success at a time when female rappers rarely got that kind of shine. When she stepped back from rap in the mid-2000s, most people just figured she was doing well and living good somewhere. She was not doing well at all.
I have, and not in that way, not in a cutting way, but at a time in my life, at a point in my life, I gone through and like she says, a dark hole. I call it my dark hole period, my dark period. I was out of a toxic relationship. I didn't have a TV show. I didn't have a record deal. I was just kind of like, what is happening with my life? So I started drinking a lot. I started drinking because I didn't want to deal with my emotions. I didn't have anybody to really talk to. I was even popping Xanax and drinking to numb my pain. And at the time while I was in it, I didn't see that I was harming myself.
She had just come out of a bad relationship, lost her TV show, and lost her record deal all around the same time. And she had nobody around her she trusted enough to really talk to about what she was going through. So she started drinking, and the drinking got heavier, and she added Xanax on top of it. She told herself it was just coping, not even realizing that what she was actually doing was hurting herself from the inside out. The DUI is what finally shook her out of it. The ankle monitor they put on her forced her to slow down and actually sit with herself and deal with what was going on for real. She prayed her way through it, got into therapy, and did the hard work of figuring out who she really was when the fame was gone and nobody was watching. She came back from it, the 2013 album, the marriage, the television work, but none of that would have happened if she had not first been honest enough to admit that she had been going under, while everyone around her thought she was fine. Gangster Boo. Lola Mitchell was only 14 years old when DJ Paul discovered her at a Memphis high school and put her in 3-6 Mafia. 14, she walked into a group built around darkness and raw aggression, and she held her own from the very first verse, going bar for bar with the men around her on records that people still come back to today. By 15, she was already on Mystic Styles, and by the time she was 20, she had a solo album charting on the Billboard 200. The girl was built for this. But the same industry that pushed her to the top, that Young also wore her all the way down. Her father passed away, and then in 2013, Lord Infamous, her bandmate, and one of the people she was closest to in 3-6 Mafia, died from an overdose. One loss stacked on top of the other, and the cocaine became the thing she ran to when the grief got too heavy to carry. The success she had built made it even harder to reach out for help, because in her world, asking for help was the same as showing weakness, and weakness was not something she could afford to show.
They were in your room setting up the drill, the lie detector, moving some things around. They went to that back table where there was a lamp on it, moved the lamp, and beside the lamp, you found a baggie with a white powdery substance. Don't know what it was, don't know whose it is.
In 2022, she got removed from Marriage Boot Camp, Hip Hop Edition, after the production team found a white powdery substance in her room. She had come on that show to fix her relationship. What came out instead showed that there was something much older and much bigger that still had a hold on her. On New Year's Day, 2023, Lola Mitchell was found not responding on the front porch of her mother's home in Memphis. She was 43 years old. The autopsy showed she died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl-laced cocaine mixed with alcohol. She had been texting LeChat just hours before it happened. She even had a whole album ready to go that she was calling The Boo Print. It never came out. The Queen of Memphis title hits different when you understand just how much she was carrying by herself for all those years. Which of the names on this list surprised you? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.